Good day, dear students, dear listeners, dear colleagues. Let's begin our next lecture. Today, we are going to talk about political groups that exist in our life, their tasks, their aim, and their starting point. So let's begin. Let's talk about their meeting place. Where do they meet? They have their meetings at coffee shops, meeting spaces, libraries, public parks, and other places. Especially, they begin their activity in these very tiny places. What do? They show videos, informative shows, make a list of all local representatives, and they talk about main issue that interests the whole members of the group. Why do they create a new group? To support social activism, civil rights, health, some kind of to help neighbors, food banks, schools, seniors together. And of course, they prefer to enlarge their groups. Why do they start? They need a citizen revival that is locally based, where people inform each other, help each other, and vote together to solve some kind of problem. What do? They make a group mission statement together. They make a list of local affinity, write an article, raise money together to help each other. And this way, they just act. So, design of a group t-shirt sometimes just created by the group members with their name, logo, color, and everyone wears them to just advertise their group name. They create a group website, blog, and share pictures, knock doors, and register neighbors to vote and ask them what issues are important to them, and do community volunteer work to help people in need. The citizen is the starting point of political life. A citizen is any member of the society with the status of citizenship, and they are the permanent political and legal relationship. Citizenship is not only recognition, but it is also an opportunity to participate in the elections of its head and highest political governing bodies. In a democratic state, ordinary citizens influence the government in two main ways: voting and creation of organized community groups. So the first one is vote. You vote in elections as well as create your own community groups. The Constitution does not protect persons deprived of citizenship. It gives the rights that exist in the society, rights to vote and to be elected. So, we have already considered that political groups are important subjects of the country's political life. So, 4 leading groups will be considered below, namely pressure groups, interest groups, lobby, and elite. Let's talk about them each other. So, such groups are called public because citizens participating in them do not receive wages for their work, don't undergo school or university training, and are not registered as regular organizations. The first one is pressure groups. They protect their own interests, trade unions, unions of entrepreneurs, and so on. They are divided into 2, insider and outsiders, as well as usually they have expert knowledge on the issues. When we speak about interest groups that come up with a new initiative to change the laws of feminist movement, the environmental movement, and so on. Especially they bring some kind of new initiative to change the law. Interest groups do not nominate members to win elections and hold public office, but they do influence the elections. But interest groups present specific interests, unlike political parties. Political parties that represent the whole country's will. Interest groups need to be distinguished from political parties. This is done according to the two criteria. The first of all, interest groups have never seek to gain political power. Secondly, they focus on one aspect of their life. The next one is environmental movement. It is sample for interest groups. They try to support the environment. They have got their own aim and task. They never just try to win the government. Interest groups, for example, can be like environmental movement, or just when we speak about they try to attract attention of the public. They want just to solve some kind of problem. As a result, environmental problems have become one of the main in the legislative activity of Parliament. In the press, on the radio and television, a special subject was introduced at schools. So, some interest groups develop into social movements, and from social movements turn into political parties. From social movements, they may become political parties. They make their activity legal. Through such movements, ordinary citizens are involved in active politics and influence it no less than ministers or major officers. They become specialists or experts in the field, and then they can create their own political parties. As soon as the problem becomes acute or glaring, it immediately attracts attention of the masses of people, from which the organizers of the future movement stands out. Lobby. Unlike interest groups, the lobby develops direct forms of pressure on government. They try to just attack or just threaten the government. They are called lobby. A group of agrarians scare Parliament with the collapse of agriculture, for example, or military forces, with dissatisfaction of the army. And of course, landlords may be unsatisfied with food and so on, as well as the group of the lobby threaten the government. They use some kind of power, they use their pressure on the government. If the lobby is indulging all the time, then they will be monopolize all the power in the state and make it work only to solve its own problem, as well as they make some pressure on the government in solution of their problem. The lobbies sometimes just stress on their own problem. They make pressure on the government, and here the government just sometimes against for the lobby actions because they demand on their problem to be solved, and they want some kind of issues to be changed. Sometimes governments may just express their unsatisfaction or just not agreement with them. Elite of society has an impact on political life of the country. They are top leaders or political leaders, major scientists, owners of television networks, and the most famous periodicals and so on. The term elite at the end of the 19th century introduced by Italian socialists Mosca and Pareto. It is used to denote the highest privileged layers of society, ruling elite, ruling circles. These people sometimes occupy positions at the top of the hierarchical pyramids in the main spheres of society. They set the tone in the tastes and behavior. They are guided by them. Sometimes they can organize some kind of groups. There are types of power in society. There is an economic elite, a political elite, and an elite of bureaucrats and officials. You can see on the screen in Russian language. They are the core of the dominant party. Very small in size, it achieves a huge effect, infecting the masses of people with its activity and determination. They can lead the society with their power. So let's talk about political parties. What are political parties? We spoke about interest groups, lobbies, elite of society. So let's talk about political parties. They are a group of persons who seek to control government by winning elections and holding offices. So we can see examples from American parties. They can be Republican and Democratic parties exist in political policy. There is a political parties to gain power through elections by supporting one or more candidates. Political parties focus on various issues, including social security, equality of rights, firemen of control, and so on. Political parties and interest groups are organizations that act as intermediaries between the population and the political sphere. But generally, political parties just try to seek to win in elections, while interest groups don't. Political parties and interest groups, difference between them you can see on the screen. Political parties run the government, interest groups influence the government. Political parties select candidates while interest groups support them. Political party can include all citizens who identify with the party itself, even if they are not officially registered. Political parties seek to gain power by supporting their candidates. On the screen you can see level of activity of political parties on social network. They are given several parties that they are on action and their activity level. You can see different political parties or parliamentary parties of Uzbekistan that we had and we have nowadays. Uzbekistan Liberal Democratic Party, People's Democratic Party of Uzbekistan, and so on, even ecological movements. Political parties organize their supporters, rally around potential candidates, write a platform describing party's basic principles, give a name to the party, create a logo, and so on. As well as the parties take part in the elections. Just during the election period, they can take part in the election with their members, with their candidates for the presidential elections or for the deputy elections. Here you can see some members that take part and follow the election process. They can just give their own participants or representatives to check the process as well. They have got the full right to take part in the elections with their chosen nominees or candidates. And on the screen you can see some samples from the elections that the representatives of different parties take part and follow the process of election. So that was all for today. We talked today about the different parties, different political groups, different interest groups and their tasks and their difference. Thank you very much for being with me. If you have any questions, you are always welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much.